Hey guys, Captain Dylan Hubbard here at Hubbard's Marina. The video is going to start very shortly, guys. Sorry for the delay tonight. Unfortunately, having a little bit of technical difficulties, making it a little tricky on us. But we are here, and saw some people getting a little worried. Don't worry, we're here and we're figuring it out. But definitely a little bit challenging tonight, to say the least. But we are just about ready to get rolling for our Sunday night live stream show. It is Sunday night, August 8th. That's right, it's August 8th. And if you're watching live, you can just wait a few minutes. That video will start for you guys shortly. If you're not watching live, you can skip forward to where you see the video start, where you see our beautiful smiling faces. Until that time, guys, don't forget to make sure you click like on the video for us. If you're watching on Facebook, if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to give the video a thumbs up, subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Instagram. We are ready to get rolling for tonight's show, and as we get there, don't forget as well, guys, we are giving away over $700 in free fishing trips. If you want a chance to win those free fishing trips, you do have to comment at least one time on the Hubbard's Marina Facebook stream. And then once there, comment one time. You can watch on YouTube, you can watch on Facebook, you can watch wherever your heart desires, but you do have to comment at least one time on the Hubbard's Marina Facebook stream in order to be eligible to win. And then from there, guys, we will pick one lucky winner. And if you're picked as that lucky winner, you have to text us your home address within about 5 minutes or so to claim that free trip. So make sure you stay tuned. You got to watch the whole show. You got to be watching live, and you got to claim that winning trip quickly to prove that you were watching live, guys. So with that, I think we're ready to get rolling. How about you, Josh? We ready?
Oh yeah, we're ready.
All right. Well, happy Sunday night, guys. Thanks for tuning in and joining us for another episode of our Sunday night live stream show here at Hubbard's Marina Studios. We are going to get rolling with talking about what's been going on, what we're seeing on the water, and what we've been catching. Showing you some photos. We're going to talk about the weather a little bit. We're going to talk about some exciting stuff going on at Hubbard's Marina with some cool new toys. And then from there, we're going to get into your questions. So with that, let's get started showing you what we've been catching, what we've been seeing out there on the water. We've had an interesting start to our amberjack season. So amberjack season opened up August 1st for us, and definitely kind of an interesting start. And it's crazy that we have seen such a great bite of fish all of a sudden, where we weren't really expecting a great amberjack bite, and it was definitely a lot better than expected. So we've seen some really, really great catches of fish. Josh, can you bring up the share screen? I'm already on the wrong page here. There we go. So we've been seeing, of course, a few of those red snappers still tagging around, but we're doing our best to avoid them. One cool thing that Captain Brian told me was on this overnight trip, they only caught about maybe 60 or so red snapper in that 20 hours of fishing time. They were able to avoid them pretty successfully and really focus on those fish that are open, as red snapper season has unfortunately ended. But we are still catching plenty of other great fish, like our triggerfish season has opened August 1st as well. We're seeing triggerfish biting well, some big triggerfish out there in deeper water. We've caught nice ones on the Flying Hub 2 deep water trips, and also plenty on our long range overnight trips too. And look at that, some nice gag grouper still coming up as well. The overnight boat did real well on red grouper. The gag bite was a little soft for us on the 39-hour trip, but the Flying Hub 2 still catching a couple nice gag groupers. And we're going to get back to the other folder. There it is. The other ones. And here's some gags from the 39-hour trip and then the amberjack. As I was saying previously, the amberjack bite was surprisingly good. I think it was closer to like 40 keeper amberjack on this recent 39-hour fishing trip, which is a huge surprise. I was fully expecting a really tough amberjack season with a real struggle to catch a lot of those keeper amberjack, but Captain Brian and even Captain Garrett on the first amberjack trip have been proving me wrong. It seems like there's a lot of fish in our area, and these guys are always a nice bonus. The strawberry grouper are great eating fish, also known as a red hind. Then we've got our scamp grouper here, one of my favorite eating fish, along with triggerfish. If you haven't eaten a triggerfish before, they are incredibly good eating. It's another beautiful red hind. Lots of them from this recent overnight. What?
Good size.
Yeah. Red hinds don't have any size limit or real restriction as far as the size, and they don't get very big. So an 8 to 10 to 12-inch fish, a 12-inch one is a monster. So they don't have any size limits because they come up and they're so small and out of deep water, and a lot of times they die when you toss them back. So there's no size limit on those fish for that reason. Now, this is a moray eel. Another unique thing from this recent overnight trip is they caught a lot of these moray eels. It's that time of year we run into them. Out there in deeper water, they caught over a dozen, Captain Brian said, and they can be challenging. You don't want to bring a moray eel into the boat. Leave it hanging over the side of the boat. The crew will come around and help you out. Don't even bring it into the boat. We've also been seeing some nice yellowtails and some nice mangroves too. I think I skipped past the other mangrove picture. But mangrove snapper bite was picky on this trip. We definitely had to work for those mangroves. They didn't bite too well through the night for us. But luckily we were able to get on them fairly consistently through the trip. It just was a little bit more tricky than we would have liked. We had to work for it a little bit more than normal. So we're hoping on this next one that'll turn around for us. We've definitely got a little bit of a different weather pattern coming up, and I want to talk about weather real quickly because it's going to be kind of important coming up here. So one big thing about the weather that we have going on, we have basically right now we are sitting on the edge of a high pressure. So Josh has taken us over to our to our website. If you go to hubbardsmarina.com, click fishing trips, scroll down to weather links. You can find this page with all the links we use for the weather. And Josh, if you pull up that 5 and 10 hour forecast area on Windfinder, we can take a quick look at our graph, and you guys can see what I'm seeing, which is right around August 15th, which August 15th is Sunday. So right around August 15th, we're going to be picking up some more winds, and then through the early part of that following weekend, or that following week, looks like we're getting a little bit of weather. And Josh, actually I have the mouse, don't I? Gonna go back to our Weather Links page, and on our Weather Links page at the very bottom is our buddy Mike's website, spaghettymodels.com. If you haven't checked it out, make sure you do. Great people over there at Mike's weather page. And on this website, you can see why we're seeing that weather kind of starting to change there at the tail end of this weekend, start of next. And this is why we've got 2 tropical disturbances here. We're going to look at just the first one. It's got a 60% chance of formation through the next 5 days, only 50% over the next 48 hours. So it really is going to hinge on how it interacts with this island chain and Hispaniola. If it drifts more north and gets more time over water, it's going to be a lot more strengthened, formed. It's going to have a chance to get more convection and most likely will be a little bit more to worry about. Whereas if it kind of stays on this general pattern and kind of hits the islands, let me zoom in a little bit so you guys can see better. If it kind of hits the islands right there below my mouse, that's when we're going to have a little bit more of a problem, or less of a problem if it hits the islands and interacts with the land more, as it will generally not form as well. We'll switch to disturbance number 2. Disturbance number 2 is still a long way out, and it's only got a 40% chance of formation. So basically, a lot of this weather that we're seeing in the forecasts on Windfinder, what I'm trying to communicate here is we're seeing that trend where they're already forecasting Sunday the 15th to be bad weather. But that's based on this tropical system. So if this tropical system doesn't come over and make it through the islands, if the islands tear it up and it doesn't form and or it takes a turn, that forecast will change completely. Because right now, as it stands, we've got a high pressure kind of hanging out over the area. We've got a nice storm over there on the east or west side of Texas, or excuse me, Mexico. So that's hurricane you're seeing is not anything that we're worried about. We're over here in Florida. So we've got a high pressure sitting on the area. High pressure is going to kind of rescind a little bit, and you're going to see that low moving in, and that's the storm, that L. And again, this one is not anything to worry about. That's the Pacific, so don't let that confuse you. This line is, again, that storm. We're approaching the weekend at this point, Friday, August 13th. That line is starting to get closer, and then you can see here that line starts making interaction with Florida on August 14th, and then Sunday, August 15th, it has it right over our area. And that is what Windfinder is forecasting. Oh, my shoulder is blocking that, isn't it? There we go. So Sunday, it has that line right over Florida, and that's basically what Windfinder's picking up and why Windfinder forecast is showing us that little bump. So great example of why I wanted to go in depth and show you how weather forecasts so far in advance are useless, because right now it's saying August 15th is blowing 20 mile an hour by 2 p.m. If that storm gets more formed, it could be blowing 70 or 100. If that storm takes a turn or breaks up, which very well could be 5 mile an hour on Sunday. So if you have trips booked over this coming weekend, don't fret yet. Long way away, and things can change drastically, especially this early with those storms. So keep an eye on it. Stay tuned to our page, to our live videos. Check out Mike's weather page and his website, spaghettymodels.com, because that is going to determine those models and those model runs, and those different hurricane ensembles are going to be what determines the weather for this upcoming weekend. But until then, through this week, we've got some beautiful weather conditions. Tomorrow is going to be a little rainy, a little scattered rain, but outside of that, Tuesday's looking good, Wednesday's looking really nice, and Thursday and into Friday, all good weather conditions. We're switching into that more kind of afternoon sea breeze as Friday approaches, but basically summertime weather patterns. If you don't like the weather in Florida, you wait 10 minutes, especially in the summer. So tomorrow might be a little bit more concentrated rain, I have a feeling, but outside of tomorrow, I would say definitely going to be a very nice week. Even offshore weather is looking pretty darn nice until, again, we get into that area early next week, late into the weekend, where that tropical system may or may not have an effect on our weather. So, weather overall, it's looking good. Hopefully, it'll hold out for us in this trend of moderate winds will hold, because we want a little bit of wind. We don't like the dog days of summer where we have no wind, no current, it's flat calm, and it's extremely hot. We want 10, 15 mile an hour winds. A little 1.5, 2, maybe even 2.5 foot chop isn't bad. because it gets things moving, keeps things stirred up, kind of keeps the water churned up a little, just enough to where those fish continue to feed and it doesn't get stagnant and chokingly hot. We're also on the new moon. New moon phase started today, so we're on the basically the peak of the new moon. That means this week currents will be more severe, more drastic, and we should see more water flowing, which should hopefully, again, keep the temperatures more moderate and also hopefully help the daytime bite. When we have no moon at night, typically the daytime patterns of feeding are better. Well, next thing we got to do is give away a free fishing trip. Josh, let's see who won our first free trip of the night, a 5-hour half day for 2 guests. Don't forget, if you're picked as one of those lucky winners, you do have to comment or you do have to text us within about 5 minutes at that phone number. That phone number. That phone number.
I'll get a cue card for you.
Yeah, well, every screen you change, it's a different point. So the phone number over there in the corner, 727-393-1947. You got to text us within about 5 minutes to prove that you are watching the show live. The goal is to reward those of you who put up with us every week. So appreciate y'all hanging out and tuning in. Let's see who won our 5-hour half day for 2. Josh? Justin Burns. Sorry, I got distracted. Justin Burns from Louisville, Kentucky. You are the lucky winner of a 5-hour half day for 2 guests. 5-hour half day for 2 guests. Congratulations, Justin Burns. Remember, you got to text us quickly at that phone number. See, it moved again. Now I'm right. At that phone number within about 5 minutes to claim that free trip. You got to text us your full home address to claim those free trips. In order to be eligible to win, you have to comment one time on the Hubbard's Marina Facebook stream. And shout out Adam Franklin. Appreciate those stars, buddy. Really, really appreciate those stars, man. Thank you. And James Davis, those names are picked up from the random name generator when we click the button. So the number of people watching fluctuates. You can pop in and pop out. You have to comment. There might be 5,000 people watching, but only 189 commented. It picks up the names of those unique commenters. You can comment 1,000,000 times, and it's only going to enter your name once. So that's how it works. Nothing fishy going on. But appreciate you guys trying to help us make sure we don't have issues. All right, so with that, let's see what else we got to get into before we get to your questions. Oh, one thing I wanted to talk about, our new reels. We just got brand new reels in, and Amanda's getting wise now that she's been around Hubbard's Marina a while. She didn't let me take one to the studio because she knows I never give it back.
Or 2 of them.
Well, I took 2 of them. One may have ended up in my garage on a rod, and the other one sitting in front of us.
Product placement.
She for some reason wouldn't let me take one of the new Daiwa Saltis BGMQs home, but we're very excited about these new BGMQs. Basically, it took us the Saltis and just injected steroids into it, and they have the black and gold series, so it's a black and gold reel, and it's just beautiful. So let's bring it up on our website, Josh. If you can bring up our new and improved online store, I believe. Larry White, thanks for those stars, buddy. Appreciate you. But as I was saying, I believe that they are already uploaded onto our brand new online store. If you haven't checked out the new store yet, we're trying to add more and more products. By the start of next year, we will have almost everything on the store, so we're excited about that. Let's see, keep scrolling. There it is. No, you're missing it. Oh, I'm taking the mouse.
Take the mouse.
You feel. There is a new Daiwa BG. So yeah, I apologize. It's not a Saltus series. When I said that, I kind of felt like I was wrong. So it's a Daiwa BG MQ. So it's basically the black and gold series, which they've had, but the MQ is new, and basically all one-piece frame, sealed drag system, very, very unique, smooth, and incredibly strong. Like just insane drag ratings on these reels. So really, really excited to put these to the test. They're nice and light. They are a little pricey, but not bad. I mean, $219 for a reel that has insane drag. So we're just going to Google it since Josh let me have the mouse here.
I messed up, guys. Sorry.
Uh-oh. Let me have a mouse, but no keyboard. Google me Daiwa BG MQ. Holy moly, where'd you learn how to type? Daiwa BG MQ 4000 drag Daiwa rating. What? Be careful what we Google. Daiwa BG MQ 4000 drag rating. Oh my gosh, are you hunting and pecking?
I was hunting and pecking.
Let's scroll down. We want to see Bass Pro, that first shop listing. They're really good about listing all the specs.
Well, this just says BG.
Jeez.
Not the correct one.
I'm going back. Did you open a new tab? That's what it is. Drag rating. Tackle direct. They're pretty good about listing their drags. We're not getting the MQ series.
Just type it.
Type it what? MQ. Put a space between BG and MQ. And another space. And then type drag rating. Drag rating. We should have had this prepared, but I'm interested myself because these reels basically, because the drag is so much larger, it fills up the full size, the full frame of the reel, and you're giving more surface area of the drag, and it really creates an insane drag rating. So it's got the ATD drag, which is basically automatic tournament drag. So they put in this like crazy grease that's super viscous to start, but then as the drag is pulled and there's friction created between those drag washers, that viscous drag, I guess you would call it lube, becomes less liquid and almost more solid. So it's a very smooth drag. So it starts out a little easy, and then as it pulls, it gets slowly more and more tight. So it's a very smooth drag, so you don't get that pulsing. And you can see how the drag fills the whole area of the frame. So you get an incredible drag rating. Max drag, so that's crazy. A 2500 reel, 2500 spinning reel has 22 pounds of drag. That's more than a 50 size Penn Fathom conventional reel. That's crazy. So the 4000 series has 33 pounds of drag. That is insane. You can't hold 33. What?
That's 14,000.
Oh.
Go up.
26 pounds. All right, good, because that's more realistic. But even that, you can't hold 26 pounds of drag on a spinning reel with one arm. That's insane. What a lot of people get hung up on with drag ratings is, oh, but I want to make sure I get this or get that. With the spinning reel, you're fighting that fish with one arm, one bicep. It doesn't matter how big and strong you are, that spinning reel and your body physics, mechanics, isn't going to be able to hold much more than 20, 30 pounds of drag. And if you don't believe me, if you want to challenge it, go home, get one of your really nice spinning rods and lock down the drag, or better yet, just tie the line to the base of a spinning reel you don't care about, and then run it through the eyes of your spinning rod and tie it to a 20-pound dumbbell and try to pick that sucker up off the ground. Most likely couldn't, and if you could, might break your rod. You got to be careful how you do that, but it is incredibly difficult. One of the coolest things that I did at a young age when we were doing the kayak mothership trips, we wanted to make sure people were able to successfully fish from a kayak, and they weren't going to go out there offshore 30, 40 miles from shore, hook a fish and flip over and we'll have an incident. So before people could go on the kayak mothership trip, they had to prove their ability by meeting the guys over at Tackle Shack in St. Pete. And Tackle Shack has a pool out in back of their tackle shop, and we got into kayaks in the pool, and that's what we did. We hung up 10-pound weights to these customers' tackle, and they had to pick up a 10-pound weight off the bottom of the pool with their fishing rod from their kayak. No one could do it. No one could do it. We had to switch to a 5-pound weight, and even then really struggled. And I'm sitting there as a young kid on the side of the pool like, what the heck? These guys are weak. What's going on? And I tried it from the side of the pool, and it was a struggle to get 10 pounds of weight up off the bottom.
With your 2 feet planted.
It's very difficult.
Here's a question.
It's crazy. What's up?
With 23 pounds of drag, can I take it on the 39 hour?
No. You don't want to use a spinning reel for bottom fishing. Now, there is an upper level MQ series. It's the Saltist MQ, and they use that. One of their promos was they caught a bluefin tuna on one of the 8,000 series Saltist MQs, or Saltiga MQs, excuse me. And they have something over 60 pounds of drag in those. And yeah, you can catch a bluefin tuna when you're the only guy fishing and the captain of the boat standing at the wheel chasing the fish with you. But I mean, you can't do that on a party boat. And bottom fishing, you always want to use a conventional reel. But these reels would be awesome for hog fishing on a 10-hour trip, for knocker rig fishing on a super light 39-hour trip in those lighter times a year, or for pitch rod fishing, or for flatlining. Great options. What does that say, Josh?
Here, let me zoom in for you. So this is the
That's
20,000 series Saltiga MQ spinning reel. Max drag is 66 pounds.
66 pounds of drag. And right below that, that's a 4,000, right?
14.
That's 14. Go down to a 4,000.
Go down to a 4,000. I don't think they.
Oh, so 8,000. The 8,000 is rated at 66 pounds of drag on the Saltiga MQ. That is ridiculous. You would break your arm. So drag ratings, you don't want to get too hung up on drag ratings. You can catch a very large fish with 40, 45, 50 pounds of drag. Anything north of 50 pounds, even with a conventional reel, you're really not gaining anything because you're just physically not going to be able to handle that. But if you're in a certain situation, like if you're a rod holder fishing, using a bent butt reel, or how they do wicked tuna style fishing where you're not holding the rod, then yeah, drag ratings north of 50 would make sense. But definitely really, really insane to have more than 50 pounds of drag in a conventional reel, let alone a spinning reel. A spinning reel, anything more than 25 pounds of drag is getting a little bit too crazy. I think it's a little insane. So besides the new products on our online store, which took us down a long rabbit trail, one thing I wanted to mention to you guys, we are now officially full-time co-hosts of the Real Animals radio show on News Radio 970 WFLA. So we're very, very excited about that, and thankful to Captain Mike Anderson of the Real Animals for making that happen, allowing that to happen, and working with us, partnering up with us at Hubbard's Marina. So make sure you check out Real Animals Fishing Show on Facebook. Give their page a like, a follow, subscribe on YouTube, and tune in this Saturday. Captain Mike Anderson, it is my 4th week co-hosting the show, and he's leaving town. So I am alone, in the studio this coming Saturday for the Real Animals radio show. I invited my buddies over at Salt Strong to join me, but Joe and Luke haven't gotten back to me. So maybe the social peer pressure of you guys reaching out to Joe and Luke, they will join me. If not, I'm going to be riding solo in the studio Saturday morning. So I need your help. You can call into the show and join us on the radio, ask your questions, or just chat about fishing at 1-800-969-9352. That show is News Radio 970 WFLA, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. every Saturday morning. Hopefully, you'll be able to join us. It'll be really, really cool. So it'd be awesome if some of our fishing friends would call into the show this Saturday morning. And don't forget to listen in, even if you don't want to call. Hopefully, you can listen in and join us. With that, I think, Josh, it is time to give away our 10-hour all-day trip for 2 guests. A 10-hour all-day trip for 2 guests. Let's see who the lucky winner of that 10-hour all-day trip for 2 guests is. Josh, let's find out. You got to share the screen, dog. I got you. Jay Brunner. I'm going to go with Bruner. Hey, it's right. Jay from Daytona Beach looking for some tickets. Well, Jay, your dream has come true, buddy. Congratulations on your 10-hour all-day trip for 2 guests. And Robin Swindell, thank you for those stars. Appreciate you, Robin. With that, Jay, don't forget to text us, claim that free trip within about 5 minutes to prove you were watching the show live. You got to text your full home address to the Hubbard's Marina main office number. Let's see here what we have questions-wise, Mr. Joshua. What is the best way to rig up for amberjack? Definitely conventional reel. Something with more than 40 pounds of drag is wise. 2-speed reel, even better. And probably around 80-pound main line would be a good start. Nothing less than 80 pound is what I would do for amberjack. Probably more like 100 pound, for example. For me, I use an old school Penn 9/0 with an aftermarket drag system and a 100-pound main line with a 100-pound leader. And often we'll switch out to 125 or even 150-pound leader if I'm going out real deep for the big ones. And then I personally like a 10, 12, even 14-aught hook with an extremely large live bait. Typically, the baits that we catch already near shore or offshore are the best baits to use. What a lot of guys will do and gals will do is fish the 5-hour half day previous to their overnighter to catch some of those white grunts and some of those unclassified porgies that you can take out there and use for bait, like the knobbed eye or little head porgies work really well out there for big amberjack bait, because you can order pinfish and live bait for your trips, but most of the time, even the largest pinfish you can find inshore would make more of a gag grouper bait. Not really necessarily an amberjack bait. You want to use a solid 1, 2, 3 pound bait for those amberjack. Now, Chris Hargis, we're skipping away from the text-in questions because Chris Hargis just reminded me a very good point that I had a note on but wasn't paying attention to is red tide update. I skipped over it. Josh, can you, while I'm talking here, can you pull up that USF map for these fine folks at home? One good thing about our live bait, as I said, Chris reminded me, he asked if we're going to be bringing live bait back. Right now, we haven't been doing live bait because of the red tide situation, but Josh ruined my build to anticipation. Thanks, Josh. See all those colors above my head? Those green, blue, yellow, orange, red. The bay and our coastline has been looking like my son's drawings after I leave him too long with a crayon box. He just covers the whole page in colors. That's what it's been looking like with anywhere from medium to extremely concentrated levels of red tide. Those black lines are floaters, basically remnants that are almost always present. So this forecast shows no red tide at all in Tampa Bay or along Pinellas County, which to me is insane. My dad had his tinfoil hat on when I told him about this and showed him. He was like, there's no way. There's no way. You pulled up the wrong website. I was like, no, it's not the wrong website, bro. Like, look at this. He was like, well, they're wrong, or someone sprayed something overnight and killed everything, and we're in a worse position. I was like, what? I love you, Dad, but like,
that's the fresh water. They just figured they wouldn't color everything in.
I don't know. I don't know what he was thinking, but basically, a lot of people are not believing this, and this, to me, is a great example of what we don't know about red tide. How can we go to an extremely dense, concentrated bloom all over Johns Pass north to nothing? That's crazy. It doesn't make much logical sense, but that's what it is. That's the forecast right now for the next 3 days is no red tide. And I can tell you today, it was like a new world at Johns Pass at Hubbard's Marina. The water was gorgeous in the pass, right, Josh?
It was gorgeous out there, besides that heat, but...
Oh, it was stifling hot. But it's a whole nother breeze. That's a whole nother conversation. But the water was beautiful. The bait is back. The snook were not loaded up. The snook were present this morning, and we've seen a lot of greenbacks, glass minnows, and even saw a manatee cruising through yesterday. So I think something happened. And definitely we are in a very good position. So to answer the question that Chris brought up, live bait is returning, making a comeback. Tomorrow is the first day back on the job for our live bait guy, master, Brian Harris. And those are current levels that you're looking at, Josh.
Yeah.
So
I just wanted to check.
Don't confuse me.
No.
All right, we'll bring it up because now we talked about it. Zoom out a little bit so you get the bigger dots. That's really hard to see. Zoom out more. When you get way out, you can see it a little better. Maybe you can't. But basically what this is showing live view of the coast is it's still showing that concentrated bloom along the coast of Pinellas County. Basically, the terminal end of the bloom seems to be Johns Pass, and then it stretches north, just north of Clearwater, right along the beach. And it goes all the way up to Hudson, but it's a little bit more sparse. But right along our coastline is kind of most concentrated with those red dots along Madeira Beach and Reddington Beach. But they're going away, apparently, according to the forecast. So what we always show you during the show, and what I always like looking at, is the forecast, because that's based on hydrodynamics and where that concentration is going to move to and where that hydrology is going to disperse that algae and that bloom, because where it is now just gives you old information. I don't want to know where it is now. I want to know where it's going to be tomorrow. That's why I always show the forecast.
Speaking of old information, these are actually 8 days old as of most recent 8 days of sampling. And then when you actually click on the dot, it says August 1st is when they took it.
Yeah.
So they've even given us an update yet.
They typically don't do live updates on their FWC site. They do forecasts every 3 days, and those samples are basically on a week-long period, because when a sample comes in, it's given to the scientists to do forecasting and to do a lot of that scientific information, and then it has to go through QA/QC before it's entered into Argus, because Argus is accessed by all municipalities, and it's basically a government-run entity. So QA/QC is done before it's entered into that system. And that's why that data is about 7 to 8 days old on average, whereas what we normally show you is a forecast, and it's based on the next 3 days. And that forecast is what I like looking at for that reason, because it's scientists digesting that information listed on that Argus site or that FWC site, and then it's forecasting the next 3 days based on tides, winds, current conditions, and where that bloom and how that bloom is going to interact with the weather. So, good news. we're coming back with the live bait. We're going to be catching them tomorrow, hopefully, and we're going to have them for Tuesdays, 10-hour all day, for Wednesdays, extreme. So looking forward to hopefully an improvement that's going to continue. And as I've said previously, just as fast as red tide can show up, it can disappear. Look, there's the proof. But as fast as it disappeared, it can unfortunately come back. So definitely want to make sure we pay attention to that. Let's see. What other questions do we have? What are you using a spinning reel for besides a flat line on a 39-hour trip? Me personally, I don't normally flat line on a 39-hour trip unless I see a lot of action around and it's super light load. Me personally, kind of being a little more invested in the experience of others on the boat. If I would love to flatline and catch a nice big kingfish or wahoo or tuna, but if I flatlined, even if the current conditions were perfect, we had 25, 30 people on the boat, like a lot of times we do outside of red snapper season. It was a lighter load trip and everything was right where I know I could flatline and it wouldn't tangle anybody. Great. I probably still wouldn't flatline because you hook a 20, 30, 40, 70 pound pelagic fish, it's gonna move, it's gonna do something, it's gonna fight. And I personally wouldn't want to cause a tangle or infringe on anybody's fishing habits or experience. So I try to really focus most on bottom fishing. Plus, that's what I like doing. I like going out there and catching mangroves. I want to race to be the first one or one of the first ones to limit out on mangroves, and I just want to catch me some mangroves and maybe a scamp grouper and focus on those bottom fish personally. But flatlining would be a main use of a spinning reel on a 39-hour trip, and then also some will use it to knock a rig. For example, if I went out on, again, a super light load trip and current conditions were right, which meaning I could drop a knocker rig and it's not going to go down the whole side of the boat and tangle everybody, I would use it for knocker rigging. I'd also perhaps use it for pitch baiting. So like, for example, this time of year when we have mahi around, having that spinning reel, I personally like to put them on the roof up behind me because the roof is easily reached, and that means the reel is close and it's not one of those overhead rod racks choked in with everybody else's rods, and everybody fights for those rod holders. It drives me crazy because then you've got 20 rods in a rod holder that really should only have 5, and it's closer to me, I need it closer to me, but it takes more time digging that thing out of that mess of rods where you could leave it upstairs, and it's very easy to go upstairs just as quickly as digging your rods out of the overhead rod rack. But I digress.
Not to mention them locking up the line as everyone's trying to load the poles on the boat. You got a guy messing around. He bent his eye.
Yeah. For me, I like taking a towel or something, laying it down on the roof above me, and then putting my rods up there. And easy peasy. The boat doesn't go 40 mile an hour like the Flying Up 2. The Florida fisherman goes solid 7 to 9 knots, and 9 knots or 10, 12 miles an hour. It's not going to blow off. And if it gets rough, I might pick them up and pile them up somewhere a little more safe. But if it's not rough, that's a perfect place for your rods and reels, right on the roof above your head, out of the way. And we're working on adding rod holders around the outer perimeter of the roof, which would also be great for those of us who are taller and can access those rod holders. That'll be a great place for you to put all your rods because you'll be able to access them with ease and know they're secure as well. So working on that. So flatlining, knocker rigging, and pitch bait fishing. Pitch bait fishing means just simply a bear hook or a bucktail jig or a gotcha plug. You see a mahi swim by, reach up, grab it, cast. That's what I'm talking about when I say pitch bait fishing. Let's see, what other questions do we have? By the way, Hubbard's Marina will not be held liable if you put your rod or reel on the roof of the boat and it all of a sudden becomes rough and you leave it up there. Throwing that out there. Disclaimer.
No, it's a little longer than that, but that's just the abbreviated.
Yeah. Yeah, that happened one time. I got that idea from a trip I was on when I was a real young kid. I was like, man, that's a really cool idea. I'm a little too short, but once I get taller, that would be a good place to put my rods, I remember thinking. And that same guy, a couple trips later, fished his very nice tackle, like $1,200 rod and reel combos. And he had his rod upstairs, and it got rough. And he was confident because he had always put his rods and reels just laying on the roof up there. There's a lip. Yeah. There's a lip on the side of the roof. I mean you're not going to, if you go up there in rough weather, I've been up there trying to climb up on the roof to put up an antenna or check a light as a crew member, and your foot can slip and you're not going to fall off because there's a pretty solid lip. But it was rough. And he was, I guess, had gained a little too much confidence in the security of his rods laying up there, and one took a slide and went into the drink, and he wasn't too happy about it, but it is what it is. Part of it. Let's see, what other questions do we have? Can you use a flare hawk from a fishing pier? Yeah, for sure. Most people fish those flare hawk jigs from bridges, jetties, piers, docks. That's primarily where you use them, is around structures, around bridges, passes, jetties, inlets, and you're casting them as far as you can and either steady retrieving them or retrieve, pause, let them sink, and retrieve again, or even popping them. Some people just pop them along the bottom. Ken Gurney, appreciate those stars, man, and I appreciate your kind words as well. That wasn't in reference to anybody specific, by the way, that story.
It wasn't him, was it?
I don't know. I feel like it was. Right. I don't recall who it was, to be honest.
He's like, thanks for the reminder.
I just remember it.
15 years ago, I forgot about it.
Some things stick in your head. Can you give a report on how the 12-hour night snapper trip has been doing? To be honest, with paternity leave, I have a little bit of a 2-week blank. As I was not super in tune, basically from middle July to the end of July, but been better about it, and now I'm back to work pretty much full-time starting as of Monday. But it's basically been a terrible week as far as getting anything done because I'm still trying to just get settled back into the swing of things. I think I'm about 500 emails behind, but
I was just about to ask.
I digress. I don't want to talk about my emails.
I don't want to talk about. What about voicemails?
Very frustrating. Let's see here. Can you put a golf ball on a spear shaft and shoot a fish to stun it? No. Spear fishing is very, very specific. You can only use it to spear fish. Stunning a fish is not spear fishing. It is considered animal abuse. You're supposed to end the fish quickly and peacefully, kind of like hunting, ethical hunting. You want to put down the animal. Kind of what do they call that? Ethically, a golf ball on the end of a spear gun just doesn't seem very ethical.
See, I didn't want to kill it.
That's what people used to do when they would poach snook, is they'd put a golf ball on the end of a spear gun, and they'd stun the snook, and then you could grab the snook, and it didn't have a spear shaft hole in it if you got caught by the peoples. Yeah. And we know that only because people got caught doing it in Johns Pass. That's how I know about it.
Just making sure.
And I'm friends with Mike Mahoney.
Who was doing it?
I don't recall. Let's see. What other questions do we have?
There's not much in questions tonight.
We don't have questions tonight? You guys aren't texting us questions to the phone number over there? If you got questions, you can text them in there, guys. Got to text them in. If you comment on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, we might not always see your questions because we can only see a certain amount of comments and then they disappear. And it's definitely tricky to keep up with everything as we're live and multiple viewers on multiple platforms. So if you have a question, make sure you text us in the question to the phone number over there. Now that I know about, ethical kill. Yeah, ethical hunting. Yeah, same thing.
Same thing.
You know what I was talking about. I think I was close. I'm not a hunter, but I knew the terminology because I'm very ethical.
Mercy killing?
Josh, you're going down a different path, son. We digressed. The 12-hour night trips. Yes, I know the last 12-hour night trip, as Philip Brittis commented, the last one was a little bit tough, but we've been seeing a good trend at the start of July. Basically, the 12-hour night trip is one of those things that we do once a week around the moon phases only, so it's not super consistent. So that makes it tricky from a captain's standpoint. You're not going out there every day, kind of keeping an eye on what depth exactly is working, what area is hot, what area is not. So it makes it a little bit more difficult in that aspect from a captain's perspective. Plus, it really makes it tricky because mangrove snapper are super smart, super picky fish, and it can be a little bit trialsome in that respect. And it's a 12-hour night mangrove snapper trip, so we're targeting mangrove snapper trips. But also, if you're targeting mangroves and going to an area where mangrove snapper typically bite well, maybe it's not producing as many vermilion or porgies or lanes, and you're not getting any bycatch. So you'll go out there. We've had trips where we caught 100, 150 mangrove snapper, but no lanes, porgies, vermilions mixed in, and then there's not a lot of action. And if you're a more experienced angler and you grind it out and put in the work, you might come off the boat with 10 mangroves happy. But if you're upset because the fishing's slow and you're not paying attention and you're getting distracted and kind of get turned off or frustrated, then you don't have a good catch because there's not a lot of bycatch. Then other trips where we just get into the action and catch a lot of heads and tails and maybe a couple mangroves mixed in, sometimes people aren't happy with the lack of mangrove snapper. So it really makes it tricky in that respect too. But the quarter moon's a good one. We're coming up on the first quarter, and the first quarter moon should be a good one. So I would say this upcoming Friday's trip, with the way the weather is shifting, we have an approaching low with a high pressure kind of backing off. At least that's what's forecasted for Friday now. Coming up on the first quarter moon, I would say this coming Friday has a good shot. Plus, you've seen the wind trend with 10, 15 knot winds, which should give us a solid anchor heading. And I know a lot of times this time of year is our biggest challenge is an anchor heading. It can be such a thing as too calm. If it's too calm, there is no anchor heading, and the boat will literally kind of come forward on the anchor, and it makes it really tricky in that respect. Like Captain Brian talked about in this morning's video from the 39-hour trip, one of the biggest challenges they had at night targeting mangroves is the anchor heading kept switching around. You fish a spot for 30, 45 minutes, and you make a move, you expect your anchor heading to be 90 degrees, just for example. You expect your anchor to be 90 degrees. You get set up on the spot expecting a 90-degree anchor heading because you just moved from a spot 10 minutes ago, and you get anchored up, and all of a sudden you swing way off the spot, and your anchor heading's 120 degrees. You just missed the spot by 30 degrees because the anchor heading changed that dramatically in a 10-minute period as you move spots. So it makes it very difficult and frustrating in that respect as a captain to kind of keep the consistency of the catch and fishing together when the anchor heading is constantly variable. And this time of year that happens with lack of wind, lack of seas, or those storms. When you get a bunch of scattered storms around, as those storms kind of come in and move away, the wind shifts dramatically, which makes finding and keeping an anchor heading incredibly difficult. Man, burping a lot tonight. Sorry.
You got a lot of questions come in once you told everyone to text in.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
All right, good. Are you going to have 2022 Hubbard's Marina calendars for sale? That is a great question. Josh, write that down on the old to-do list.
It's actually already written down since you gave me permission
Nice.
to do it last week. So.
Oh, I did?
Yeah, you were like,
you talked about this already?
Yeah. Well, it was in the supporters show, but.
Yeah, by the end of the supporter show, I don't remember much. Plus, I don't remember much anyway right now. I'm not sleeping too well. Very fuzzy in that respect. But yes, we will have 2022 calendars next year. Our art guy who used to put them together, and then he worked for a printing company where he'd had them printed, kind of fell out on us a little bit. But we have a very artistic individual behind the computer right now, so maybe we might let old Joshua give it an old college try, putting together a calendar. And we have a printer now, so maybe we might do our own calendars.
It's just going to be 12 months of crew member in Speedos.
Whoa, bro.
So,
Whoa, bro.
Just the crew
My
members.
calendars were dope. I was the one who was in charge of them calendars, so watch your mouth.
Hey, creative. I have
Creative
authority
freedoms.
on it
If you make the calendar for me, you can have creative freedoms. That
All right,
way,
ladies, I'm
anybody
gonna need
watching the show
centerfold.
knows
June
when you
and
see your
July.
2022 calendar, and it's a bunch of
It's
a
Captain
bunch of,
Rich in a Speedo with his arm up holding a big old gag grouper.
By the way, guys, I bet
We're joking.
I offered to pay for Josh's very expensive artistic haircut today, and he has yet to take me up on it. We saw
I'm
a very
willing.
solid mullet today. Guy had shaved sides, solid short top, and a banging mullet. And then in the shaved side, he had an American flag, and then on this side, he's going for a bald eagle head.
Hey, if you're watching the show right now and you're that guy with the mullet and the eagle,
We love
come
you.
see
We're
me.
big fans.
I will get you on a trip
I'll give you a free trip today.
right now. You know what? Here, call me.
You got an American flag and a bald eagle and a solid mullet. You're going fishing for free. That just happened. Let's see here. What other questions do we have, Josh, before we digress too much down the mullet? We'll save the rest of that for the supporter show.
All right. No need to. Is there any need to chum on the 10 or 12?
Yeah, that's a great question. So a lot of times I get the question about chumming. We do not chum, nor do we want anybody to chum. Chumming will sometimes happen on our 5 and 10 hour trips. For example, when we're targeting, what day is today? Today's Sunday, right? Yeah, it's a live show. Yeah.
I think so.
We don't have an overnighter out.
No,
Getting
Friday.
a phone call from someone with no caller ID. Is it ringing in the thing? All right, good. And when it's no caller ID like that, typically it's a sat phone, but I don't have a boat offshore. So hopefully that's not the police calling us about something happening at the marina, because they're going to have to wait till after the show.
They heard about the centerfold and
Yeah.
they're like, I want to be June.
Yeah, who knows? But it's either typically no caller ID is the sheriff or a sat phone of the boat. It's never good. Let's see here. What other questions do we have? Has Captain Frank... Oh, chumming. We never answered that question. So chumming, we don't typically chum because it's very difficult to get your chum to the bottom where you're fishing. When you put up the boat on a spot, typically your lines will kind of go down at an angle to the fish. And when you drop chum, it doesn't have a 6-ounce weight on it. Typically that chum kind of floats down more slowly and it hits the bottom 50 yards, 60 yards, 100 yards away from where your hooks are. And typically, if you're not really specific on what kind of chum, your tactics of chumming, a lot of times it will just simply pull the fish away from where your hooks are going, and it's not a good thing. So on average, on the normal, we don't typically chum for that reason. But we do use things like chum drop from Aquatic Nutrition Sport Fishing Chums,
Shout out.
super shrimps from Aquatic Nutrition Sport Fishing Chums. And both of those products are designed to drop to the bottom more quickly. So we'll use there's the sheriff. He can tell us if anything's happening. He's watching the show, so obviously nothing's happening at the dock. So
He's like, it ain't
problem
me.
avoided.
I just checked the dock cams and everything. Looks
So
good
it wasn't.
there.
It was probably about my truck's extended warranty. I saw that comment. That was funny. But as I was saying, there are some ways around it. Also, the chum bomb, which we've talked about in the past, the chum bomb basically mixing together your typical chum and perhaps maybe some menhaden oil, maybe some tuna fish, maybe some glitter. Literally one of the best tournament fishermen in the area told me his secret weapon to his chum for pelagic fishing was silver, green, and red glitter. Mixing all that together, and that glitter gets down there in the water, and it's very pretty. It's very pretty. Glitter works for chum in a lot of different aspects of life,
also
let me
works
tell you.
against you, too. It's everywhere.
Let's keep moving. All right, next question.
There was one about Captain Frank's special hogfish trip.
Yes, Captain Frank's special hogfish trip. He didn't answer the phone prior to the show. I told you last week that we would talk about it, but unfortunately, he didn't answer my phone calls. He will be back this upcoming week. I would imagine the way the weather's going that it would probably be, I guess, Tuesday. But that is a simple guesstimating. I don't know. I'm losing it. Guesstimation. I like that. Heading to the barber. Whoever said that, I really hope I see a second person with a mullet. Again, bald eagle, and then American flag. I don't care which side you put it on, but I want shaved, buzzed sides, bald eagle, American flag, short top, mullet in the back. At least 10 inches, free fishing trip.
Well, see, I get free fishing trips now, so I get a free haircut out there.
Not valid on holidays, blackouts, nights, and weekend. No. Just kidding.
Not valid during season.
Does the red tide affect eating fish? No, red tide does not affect eating fish. It affects eating shellfish and mollusks in the area affected by red tide concentration. So you wouldn't want to eat like an oyster out of a bay with red tide. That's where you can get into trouble. But fin fish, basically all the fish we eat, fin fish, reef fish, are not dangerous to eat, even out of severely concentrated red tide blooms. Now, I probably wouldn't recommend that. I would get outside of that red tide bloom and fish out there in healthier waters, but definitely works extremely well to scare everybody else out of your fishing spots. Keep everybody down off the water, that's for sure. But no, it does not make it dangerous to eat the fish you catch if there's red tide present. Any other questions? The sand definitely has been talked about a few times. The sand is 100% not remedied. If you go down to John's Pass in the morning right now, it might seem that way because we have extremely high tides from that new moon. And definitely a lot of water covering up that sandbar. But basically that sand that was exposed, that was all dry, has been spread out. So we have this incredibly large, very shallow sandbar. And at an extreme low tide, it's the biggest beach ever. But at a medium to high tide, it's almost non-existent. You only see a little bit of dry land. But basically that sand is spread out over a larger area. If anything, the sand problem has gotten a lot worse. But now that it's underwater, and now that the county has executed this 6-month study that took really almost 10 months, no one's talking about it. And a lot of people have forgot about it, and the momentum is gone. And it's disappointing because I don't have this large area of dry sand to point out every day at low tide, because it's not there. It's under the water a majority of the day. And if you know what you're looking at even a high tide, you can still see a big sandbar and an extreme area of low, shallow water where it should be 20 feet deep. But unfortunately, people don't know always what they're looking at. And I could post a video of that talking about a sand problem, and everybody would just laugh at it. So I don't know what to do here. Essentially, I feel kind of defeated as far as the sand issue goes. We had all this momentum, all this pressure. We were really making a great headway. But unfortunately, it led to, well, we have to do a study. And guess what? $35,000 in 6 months of studying later, they told us we need to dredge. Well, that's great, buddy. That's what we've been saying for 30 plus years, since 1993, when the first letter was sent to the county and state about this issue. We said we needed to dredge. Well, 30 years later, we've got a study that says we need to dredge.
Now let's build a bridge first.
So Barry Burton attended that study, who's the county administrator for Pinellas County, and he is not very friendly. And he sat there quietly smiling and said, well, that's the end. We've concluded the study, and we've presented our results. And I said, so what's next? And he said, well, the county has done its job and accomplished the goal of studying the issue. And, and he promptly left after making it very clear the county wasn't going to be involved in any way in remedying the issue that they found in their study. So I guess their big thing is, hey, we found out there's a problem and we helped you find that problem. So good luck. See ya.
Oh, yeah, you're right. There
really
is
appreciate you letting us know what we already know here, bud, and taking $10,000 to fund part of your $35,000 study and taking 10 months away and all our momentum behind all of our support. Really appreciate that, Barry Burton, and all you do for the county commission. And Barry Burton had the cojones to stand at that meeting and tell my counterpart that he runs the county commission. He is not a county commissioner. He's a paid county employee who works for the commission. But he told us that he runs the commission. Whatever he says, the commission does. Pretty crazy. If I was a county commissioner and I heard that, I'd be pissed. But unfortunately, I can't get through. And I actually ran into one of the county commissioners today at Publix. And if looks could kill, I'd be dead. Let's just leave it at that. Wasn't very friendly, and tried to dip and dodge me, but I wasn't letting it happen. I have a very large.
You can see over the top of the aisles.
Oh yeah, I can reach over the aisles.
Oh, is that
and
bread on
long
aisle
story
7?
short, ran into them, said individual, and I don't think they could have walked away faster.
We should glitter bomb them.
Glitter bomb them. It's not funny to joke about bombs and government officials, sir.
Glitter.
We've got the sheriff watching. Remember, we already talked about this,
right.
Josh. I'll give you Josh's home address after this.
I'll give it
Mr.
to you.
FBI
You
agent.
can look it up.
We are running out of time, but we started late, so that gives me a right to end a little later, right?
Say one last question.
One last question before we give away our 39-hour free fishing trip. Let's see. Pick me out a good one, Josh. Oh, hint on targeting triggerfish. So targeting triggerfish is difficult. It's not one of those things where you can really necessarily say, I'm going to go out and catch a triggerfish today and go out there and fish a certain tactic or tackle to hook and catch and keep a triggerfish. Very difficult to do that. They're not super prolific in all the areas across our waters. You got to go deep. So 12-hour extreme, 39-hour long-range private charters, the best. Sheriff Bruce there already has the address. He's already sent it for me. I see you, Bruce.
That's all right.
So
I told him he could look it up.
Back to what we were saying. Basically,
Wait, my address or Dylan's address?
Basically, it's very difficult to go out there and target triggerfish with any sort of efficiency. But on those deep water trips, there are certain spots that are known to have triggerfish. Now, could I sit here and say, if you use this hook, this tackle, you've got a better chance of catching them? Yes, but I would be essentially fibbing a little bit. I mean, you typically want to use lighter tackle. 40-pound, 50-pound, even 30-pound test works for a triggerfish. But this time of year with gags open, I would say probably stick closer to 40-pound is crazy light during gag grouper season. 50-pound is better. 60-pound is where I would love for everybody to fish during gag season, but ultimately a lot of people drop down to 40-pound when gag grouper or when targeting mangrove snapper at night on a 39-hour trip. And if you got a couple guys and gals using 40-pound and then the rest of the boat's using 60-pound, guess who's going to get the bites? People using lighter tackle, because it's a little bit more natural, especially if the bite's slower. The fish are more finicky, more leader shy. Lighter tackle's always going to work best. So you got to kind of weigh that. Yeah, you could use lighter tackle, but you're going to get more bites. But if you get that lucky gag bite, you're going to lose him, most likely. You're not going to be able to land him unless you're extremely lucky. So lighter tackle, smaller hooks, 5-6-aught hooks definitely would be preferred for those triggerfish. They don't have a super large mouth. Triggerfish have a very small mouth, but they have a very hard mouth. So if you're using lighter tackle, you don't want to use a super light wire hook because they will crush a hook. They will crush your finger if you get your finger in a big triggerfish's mouth. She gone.
Oh, man.
It's definitely crazy. And then squid. Squid is my preferred option, a little tiny squid strip. But you can even catch them using a double snell rig with thread fin. Most of the triggerfish I end up catching are targeting mangrove snapper using a double snell thread fin chunk. You end up catching one just by chance, you know. So I've even caught them on pinfish. Catch them on a variety of shrimp works. But I would say if I was trying to target a triggerfish, I'd probably drop down a squid on I might even use 2 little small strips on my double snell rig, one in each hook. Will McClure was on the show a while back when triggerfish were opening up earlier in the year, and he mentioned a porgy rig or a high-low rig as a option for triggerfish that he recommended. And you can kind of do squid on the top, shrimp on the bottom, or vice versa to kind of mix it up a little bit bait-wise and give yourself a chance for one of them triggers. Kind of hard to say. Not a lot of people go out there targeting triggerfish, but they are extremely good eating, very difficult to flay, but one of the best eaten fish for sure. Let's see. Josh, I think it's time to give away our last free trip of the night. Before we do that, though, I do want to make sure we remind you guys, September 21st is the next Real Animals fishing conversation at Furman, Jeep, Chrysler, Dodge, and Newport Richey, corner of 19 and 54, September 21st, 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. They're going to have free barbecue from Pit Boss Barbecue and talking fishing with a local guy to that northern area. And I'll be hanging out as well that night. So September 21st, Furman of Newport Richey. Check it out. And then every Saturday morning, News Radio 970 WFLA, or listen live through the iHeartRadio app. You can download that iHeartMedia app or iHeartRadio app and listen to WFLA 970 through the app, or tune into the Real Animals Radio or Real Animals Fishing Show Facebook page. You can watch the radio show live.
Yes, you can.
So check that out. And again, this weekend, I am the only person there running the show. So call into the show. Please call into the show. 1-800-969-9352 for the radio show. Saturday mornings, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. Lastly, huge shout out to our sponsors, Yamaha, Bass Pro, Salt Strong, Salinity, and Engel Coolers. Appreciate you guys all working with us and helping us out, especially Yamaha. Appreciate all you do, and Bass Pro Shops. And also, of course, our new partner, Real Animals, as I've talked about a lot during the show. Very, very excited about that. Big things to come. And if you don't watch Fox 13 News, what are you doing? Best news network in Tampa Bay. They have a really, really great little segment, 8:15 on Friday mornings, if you haven't caught it yet.
Oh, it's with that guy, what's his name?
He's
Dylan
a goofball.
Hubbard.
He's a goofball.
The owner of Hubbard's Marina or something like that.
Let's see who won our free trip, and then we're going to start our supporters after show. Supporters show will start just after 10 o'clock on our private supporters page. If you're not a supporter, you can become one tonight by hitting that Become a Supporter button at the top of our timeline. Really, really worth checking out. Pretty cool stuff coming. So become a supporter today. Back behind the scenes info. Cool free shirts. And more. And check out the lady anglers of Hubbard's Marina. If you're a lady, you like fishing, join that free Facebook group run by some of our lady anglers. Pretty cool. We'll add that to the comments if you want to join it. And hopefully we'll see some of y'all out at Hubbard's Marina. And don't forget, if you're too busy to go fishing, you're just too busy. Let's see who won our free trip. 39-hour trip. Now that we made you wait, built the anticipation. Shanna Parks says she's here. Well, Shanna, hopefully you're happy you're here because you just won a $399 value, absolutely free. Hopefully you guys will join us again next week for another episode of the live stream show. Don't forget, if you're too busy to go fishing, you're just too busy. Hopefully we'll see you Saturday morning for the radio show. Tight lines, we're out. If you're a supporter, don't forget the after show. If you're not a supporter, what are you doing? Join the